Welcome back to the Shipyard. Today, we're talking about the 6 ambassadors that currently exist in Attack Wing and just going over rules, effects, everything that's there, and just a little bit more info because they're new and we haven't had a new card type come into this game since, question mark upgrades, but before that, admirals. So, what are ambassador cards? What do they do? Well, they're not captains, they're not admirals, they're not upgrades, meaning things that target captains, admirals, upgrades don't affect ambassadors. Basically, ambassadors go on your fleet, they go on a ship, and they're just going to be there. They're going to have some kind of an effect. You only get one ambassador per fleet, and that's probably a good thing. You don't pay a faction penalty when equipping an ambassador to a ship. That makes a ton of sense. At the start of a game, a player may activate their ambassador's negotiation effect by choosing an opposing ship. The target of the effect may choose to accept negotiations or deny negotiations. So we'll see here that every ambassador has two options there. Now, for the most part, one of these options is better for you as the player having negotiations thrust upon you to choose. But sometimes, you might go, I'm okay. If negotiations are accepted, both players will be affected some way. If they're denied, then only the opposing player will be affected detrimentally. Now, if negotiations are accepted and the ship the ambassador card is equipped to is destroyed by the ship that accepted negotiations, you immediately triggered the negotiations denied section. So that means you can shoot at each other, but if you kill that ship, and it doesn't say by attacking, so if you have some effect that kills a ship, I'm thinking Decker, for instance, you're going to trigger denied negotiations. So let's break in to what these ambassadors actually do. We have 6 options. So, starting with the Klingon ambassadors, we have Kamarag. Now, Kamarag accepted is during the combat phase, this ship and the target ship must attack each other if able. Okay. Denied, the next time the target ship attacks, it rolls -3 attack dice. So you got to make a choice there. Am I willing to take one-time penalty or be told who to shoot? Personally, I'm willing to be told who to shoot because it has this lovely caveat, if able. Plus, I'm then constricting my opponent to having to shoot my ship, and I'm okay with that as well. Yeah, for the most part, I don't want to roll 3 less attack dice. That's just a bad notion for me. Now, Cord is a pain. Has a lot of text, as you can see. For the accepted, the target ship must plan its maneuver face up during the planning phase. When the target ship sustains damage to its shields or hull, this effect ends. Now, I had Cord played against me. I took the negotiations accepted. And there's times you might want to do that. But I think for the most part, you're going to want to go with denied because you may plan the target ship's maneuver during the next planning phase. Ooh, your first maneuver gets planned for you. The chosen maneuver must be on the target ship's maneuver dial and be a green or white maneuver. The chosen maneuver may not cause the target ship to go outside of the play area. Okay, unless you're up against, say, a lure faked message Cord build, denying negotiations is not going to be that big of a problem. You're not going to be set up in a position where they're going to fly you off of the board. Eventually, yes, 3 rounds of control really does hurt, but kind of like big whoop. Having your having to plan a dial face up for a bunch of rounds until you take damage in some way can really hurt because you're telegraphing your maneuvers. Now, I will say, if you have a fleet that's operating relatively independently, then there's no reason not to accept negotiations. But if you're running a swarm fleet, a stick together fleet, an area of effect fleet, then accepting negotiations hurts you. Because not only are you telegraphing for one ship, but you're typically telegraphing for your entire fleet, and your opponent is going to react accordingly. And that's just a problem. All right, the Federation ambassadors. So first up, we have Sarek. Now, if you accept negotiations from Sarek, when this ship and the target ship are within range 1 to 3 of each other, neither ship may target the other with an attack unless there are no other targets. If you deny these negotiations, you place 3 time tokens on all weapon upgrades equipped to the target ship. Now, denying negotiations means you're probably going to slow play things. Now, if you have ways of mitigating your weapon time tokens, denying negotiations not such a bad thing. Most combat will take place in the 3rd round of combat, so you would still have time tokens on your weapons. If you choose to slow play it a bit more, then you're into the 4th round and you're clear. So having those time tokens aren't going to hurt you. Sarek is kind of the opposite of Kamarag. And this says, hey, these 2 ships not shooting at each other. And I don't mind accepting these negotiations. Now, if you're running Sarek, you're probably going to run Sarek on a less important ship, maybe a support ship, a science vessel, a shuttle, something like that. But you could also run it on a more fragile ship that you want to keep protected, and then focus your fire on another target of your opponent's. So Sarek certainly has some intriguing play that I like, but I think that more often than not, your opponent's going to deny the negotiations and then slow play to clear off their weapons. Now, Loxana Troy is another one of these with a lot of text. At the start of the game, target a captain or crew upgrade equipped to the target ship. Whenever the ship moves within range 1 of the target ship, disable the captain equipped to this ship and the target captain or crew upgrade. I just... Why would I ever accept those negotiations? I don't want to face that. Now, if I deny those negotiations, I put 3 time tokens and a disable token on the target captain or crew upgrade. Okay, I can suffer through that. Now, the timing here with ambassadors might make it so if they're going to target, say, a Gencisco, a Koth, and maybe the damage that I can inflict back to you is better than the damage you're inflicting to me. That is worth more, and I'm willing to accept negotiations. And maybe I have maneuver control on you, and I can mitigate the effect of Loxana. So these are decisions that you have to make, but I think that denied is a clear path because it's one and done. Yeah, you have to wait 3 time tokens, 3 rounds to get your stuff back. But you spend your first round action to re-enable, and after that your time tokens are coming off. So Loxana is very easily dealt with. All right, and then our Vulcan ambassadors. I'm going to talk about Soval first. If we accept negotiations with Soval, for the rest of the game, if the ship moves within range 1 of the target ship, or the target ship moves within range 1 of this ship, place an Ox power token beside the ship that moved. So that can be a problem. It's kind of like a moving uh, objective token from the objective scenario, the obstacle scenario. Now, if we deny negotiations, you make an attack against the target ship with 3 attack dice that cannot be modified or rerolled. That's a bit. It's cloaked mines. It's cloaked mine rule one time, and that's not bad. But for the most part, I think I'm willing to take the Ox Power token. Yeah, that's going to mess with my dice or my action quality. I don't know. This is one. It's going to depend on what ship they targeted, how much action economy that I have going on, and very situational. But it's also that I'm not sure how much I want to run Soval because their ship can also impact my ship. Now, Vlar. Vlar. All right. So if you deny negotiations with Vlar, we're going to start with the easy part. You just discard a crew upgrade equipped to the target ship. So that's me as the person running Vlar gets to pick one of your crew and discard them. Straight up. All right. If we accept negotiations, then we disable an upgrade of the opponent's choice equipped to this ship with a printed cost of 3 or less, and an upgrade of your choice equipped to the target ship with a printed cost of 3 or less. So both players are disabling an upgrade with 3 or less. But here's the caveat. Both ships must have an upgrade with a printed cost of 3 or less for negotiations to be accepted. And so people are saying that, oh, just run Vlar and don't have any upgrades that are cheap, and then your opponent's forced to deny negotiations. And while I think that's technically true, I also think that it is the most scummy thing you can do. But it's also, ooh, you get a free discard. Like, yeah, I get it. Discarding a crew is a big deal, but I guess it's not really free. It costs you 3 points. But I feel like you should have to have a crew, an upgrade of 3 or less with Valar in order to be able to run Valar. I feel like that should have been a mandatory effect. So, I get it. I don't like the power imbalance between Valar and everybody else. Because, yeah, almost every single time I would choose to accept negotiations on Valar. Except my opponent can absolutely make it so that I can't accept by their choosing instead of my choosing. See, all the other ambassadors let me make a choice, and here you can force my hand. So I don't like that. So overall, ambassadors. We'll come back here. I am still finding my way with ambassadors. I think that they will play a role in the game, but I want more of them. And I want things that interact with ambassadors. I want effects that negate ambassadors. I want things that say, if you have an ambassador, you get to do this thing. If you don't have an ambassador, if you target a ship that has an ambassador, get this. If your fleet, or if you are up against an opponent without an ambassador, get this. I want ambassadors that don't cost 3 points. I get why in this first wave of ambassadors, 3, faction packs of ambassadors. You make them all cost the same. But not all of these ambassadors are of the same power balance. More so, I want ambassadors where the choice doesn't feel obvious. I think in the probably 8 to 10 games I've played against ambassadors, every time except one, the choice has been obvious about what to do. And that just seems sad. I know there's a ton more potential for ambassadors. I have a document thread from, oh gosh, like 2014, 2015, where I was creating ambassadors. Not necessarily with these kind of ideas. I think they acted more like admirals, but I like the effects. I like this idea of negotiations. I like messing with the start of play. I do like the design space that this opens up. I think it's a good start. I want to see more with it. And I think if you look into Trek lore, there is a ton more room to develop ambassadors. And the nice thing with these not having faction penalties, it doesn't matter if we get 20 Federation ambassadors, they can go on anything. But, I will point out to anyone who might be listening who has any say in the design space, Voyager met with a ton of representatives from various Delta Quadrant species. And I think Voyager as a show would make a great starting ground for interesting ambassador development. And I'm not going to name names, but I think that there's a ton of potential there. And I think everyone would have their favorites, but I think that's a space to put some characters who might not fit with combat into the game. So that's my plead, my hope, and to you listeners, feel free to write your comments for who you would like to see as an ambassador in the comments. And maybe I'll agree. So, all right. Thank you all for watching. And until next time, we'll see you around the shipyard. Take care.